Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and I want to welcome you all to the first of our BBB Skill Builders series on organizing your online calendar. My name is Jared Wise. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications with Your Better Business Bureau. Now, before we get started today, I'd like to open up the meeting with a poll to get a better understanding of what kind of calendar system you may be using in your particular office. So what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to launch a poll. This should show up on your screen. So if you can respond to this poll and click one of the multiple choice answers of what kind of calendar system you currently use in your office, that'd be great. And we'll let this poll run for about 30 seconds here as we get started. I'm also turning our presenter on, so she'll be able to talk here in a second as well. So we're getting some good information in. Thank you. So this will help guide our discussion today on exactly what kind of angle we want to go towards. So we appreciate you filling this out as we get started here. I'm going to leave the poll open for probably about 10 more seconds. So if you have your last-minute votes getting in, whether you use Outlook or Google Calendar, try to get those votes in. And a couple more seconds, and we're done. So it looks like about half the attendees, most of them are using Microsoft Outlook, which is apparently the more popular one as well. I would like to now introduce our speaker today. Kara, can you hear me?
I can. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Now, Kara is with one of our BBB accredited businesses called Learn It. This is going to be about a 30-minute session on organizing your online calendar. Now, Kara has been working with them for about 5 years. It looks like over 5 years. She is the head of Learn It's end-user training department and works to improve how organizations provide training for their employees. So, Kara, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us this presentation. And I'm going to turn it over to you. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to kind of flip screens with everybody. So I'm going to give her control, and we'll take it from there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Share my screen. You guys should be seeing it now. And I've got my PowerPoint presentation up and displayed, so hopefully everyone can see that. Jared, can you just give me an okay that you got that? I'll expect you to unmute me and say that you didn't. Wonderful.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And I really wanted to thank Jared and the Better Business Bureau for letting Learn It be part of this event today. It's always a pleasure to talk about tips and tricks for the applications that we use every day. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but I kind of live and die by my calendar. I wouldn't know where to go or where to be if it wasn't for my calendar system. So in this session today, we're going to talk a number of tips and tricks for a few different calendar systems, specifically Outlook, Outlook Online, and Google's calendar system. So those will be the 3 calendars that we touch on. Now, Learn It has been around for 22 years, providing high-quality training for the businesses of the Bay Area and globally. We have a social presence, and if you're interested in more little videos like this, I highly recommend our YouTube channel or any of our other blogs or Facebook or Twitter. Our outline for today is really going to start with Outlook 2016, specifically tips and tricks for making working within your calendar even easier. We'll then move into taking a look at some of the settings that we have through the Outlook web app, and finally, some tips for those of you using the Google Calendar. And I will say, whether you're using Outlook professionally or Gmail, Google personally, you'll get a lot of great information in this 30-minute session. At the end of the training, as Jared said, we'll open it up for questions. So if you do have questions that come up throughout the course of this next 30 minutes, please make note of those and we'll happily get those addressed afterwards. The final thing that I will share with all of you is a little promotion that we have through Learn It if you're interested in taking other classes that dive even deeper into these different systems. So let's go ahead and move over to Outlook 2016, where we can take a look at some of these features that help us manage our calendar. So I'm going to move over to Outlook. And you'll bear with me, this is my actual Outlook that I use. This is Outlook 2016, and Outlook 2016 is very similar to Outlook 2013 and Outlook 2010, and even if you're a Mac user, the Outlook 2016 for Mac. The first thing I wanted to show you guys is a feature that was enabled in earlier versions of Outlook, but in Outlook 2016, by default, is turned off. Now, to access this feature, I'm going to navigate over to the View tab of the ribbon, and you'll notice that currently I'm in the Mail section of Outlook. So from the Mail section of Outlook, again, I'm not in the Calendar section, but the Mail portion, I'm going to move to the View tab of the ribbon. Now, from the View tab of the ribbon, I have a button on my ribbon called the To-Do bar. And this is one of my personal favorite ways to stay on top of the events and meetings that I have scheduled. Now, I live and die by my Outlook. I am in my email all the time. I use this for things to do, for projects, communication throughout my organization, and with clients externally. And one of the things that I have found to be really helpful is to enable from the To-Do bar the calendar. So when I go to the View tab and I select the To-Do bar, there is a button, and when I select that To-Do bar button and select Calendar, it enables a panel that opens up along the right-hand side of my screen. Now, what I love about this is not only does it show me a little preview of my calendar, but it shows me all of the events that I have scheduled today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. If I select the 1st of August, I can see all of the events that I currently have scheduled on the 1st of August. So this is a really great way for me to get an insight into the other sections of Outlook without having to leave the Mail portion. Now, of course, I could always go down to the navigation and I could select the Outlook calendar and have that move me over to my day. But by adding the To-Do bar, by enabling the calendar for the To-Do bar section from that View tab, I get insight into what is on my calendar, and I don't have to move them from the Mail section. If I want to open up an event that I have on my calendar, I could simply double-click that event, and here I have all of the information that I've scheduled for this event right now. So this is one of those great ways to save time and improve the Outlook calendar experience by enabling that To-Do bar. Now, the next thing I wanted to discuss from our outline is how to create an event from an email. And this is one of those really simple ones that if no one ever showed you, you may not even think about think about trying it. So let's say I get this email from Microsoft and I want to make sure that maybe I read it or that I schedule a meeting to discuss that email. So in other words, I want to convert this message here to an appointment for myself. One of the things that I can do is I can drag and drop this email message to the calendar icon on my navigation pane. And you'll see that when I do that, dragging, hovering over that calendar, and then releasing my mouse, it generates a new appointment. And that in the body of this appointment is all of that information from that email from Microsoft. So if I know that later today I want to schedule some time to review this, I can set this on my calendar simply by setting the time and choosing Save. It takes the name of that subject line, Get the Most Out of Summer, and it converts that to an appointment on my calendar. If I double-click that appointment from my To-Do bar, it opens up that email that I converted into a meeting. So again, if you get messages and you want to remind yourself to maybe read the message or dig deeper into the information within the message, you can simply drag and drop that message to the calendar icon of our navigation pane. And that will convert that message to an appointment. Now, I have this email here from Jared. If I want to convert that into a meeting with Jared, Once I have the appointment open, I would simply say invite attendees. But rather than doing that, I'm simply going to use a button on my ribbon called Reply with Meeting. This will give me that same result. It'll simply reply to this message from Jared with a meeting, and now I have a meeting scheduled with Jared at whatever time I set on my appointment. So again, just wanted to show you guys, first off, the to-do bar on the right, and then how to take an email and convert that to an appointment, or take a meeting, an email, and convert that to a meeting. Now, both of those things I find really helpful when working within Outlook. And again, we want to find ways to make sure that we are focusing on important information, and our calendar is one way to do that. I wanted to show you guys another tip for those of us that schedule a lot of meetings. One of the features that Outlook 2016 provides for us are a quick step. And most of my clients do not utilize these, although they're very helpful. Quick steps are a way to perform multiple actions in one step. For example, replying and deleting, or moving a message to a folder. There are several different types of quick step templates, but the one I want to look into is a new meeting quick step. So from the More option of the Home tab of the Mail, I'm going to go to New Quick Step, New Meeting. Now I'm going to go ahead and call this New Meeting with My Boss. This is going to be the name of the quick step that I'm using. And what the quick step is going to allow me to do is to save multiple actions into a single click. Now, once I've named the quick step, this is where I can then go into the options. I can set a new meeting. I can put who that meeting is to, as well as other additional information that might be valuable. So maybe I'm always scheduling a meeting with my boss that I title Weekly Check-In. The location is in my boss's office. And our agenda for the meeting is to review last week's notes and plan following week. So this is information that I want always within my meeting notes. I can even add who my boss is or the person that I want to invite to this meeting by simply going to the To and then searching from my directory. So now I have included my boss's name. I put in a subject for the meeting, the location, and the agenda. Now I could save it here, or I could add additional actions. However many actions you want to include in your quick step, the bottom line is with one click, I'm going to be able to put all of this information into a new meeting. In fact, I can even save a shortcut. Once I've saved the meeting, I simply go to my new meeting with my boss, select it, it launches a new meeting window. It includes my boss's name, and you can see that I even have that weekly check-in and agenda. Oh, sorry guys. Now I noticed that when I clicked that, it actually created two windows. So that means that I have an error, and this is something that happens commonly when I use this quick step. It accidentally added another create new meeting, but don't worry, I wanted to show you how to edit the quick step. I simply right-click my mouse, and here I can choose to edit that quick step. And when I open it up, you'll see there is that extra create new meeting, and I'm simply going to go ahead and change that and place my boss's name into this section of my new meeting. So now I've got my new meeting, putting in that weekly check-in. I'm going to save that, and then when I go to use that quick step, it launches that new meeting window, addressing it to my boss with the subject line, the location. All I have to do is set the time. Now, if this was a reoccurring meeting, I wouldn't need to use a quick step. I could just simply set a reoccurrence. But let's say this meeting changes as far as what day or what time we hold it. But I do know it's my weekly check-in. Now, whether you want to use quick steps or meetings to save time when working within your calendar or any of these other options, I highly recommend using quick steps to save those repetitive actions within Outlook 2016. Now, again, just want to remind you guys that if you have any questions that came up during this section on Outlook 2016, that we will make time at the end for this training to address any questions that you have. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to move over to our next section of our training, and that's our Outlook web app. The Outlook web app is the online version of Outlook, and for me, I've used the Outlook web app to be able to access my calendar online. Now, I access my web app by going to my Office 365. By signing in to portal.office.com, I was able to access my Office 365 through my company. From the Office 365, I can access my mail, my Outlook Online, or my calendar, my Outlook Calendar Online. Now, when I'm in the main section of Office 365, I do have a settings icon in the top right corner. That settings icon will open up a panel giving me the ability to access the settings for my calendar. I'm going to go ahead and select my calendar settings. Now, for those of you that rely on your Outlook calendar, if you're not at your desk and you don't have access to the local application on your computer, being able to access your calendar online can be very helpful. Now, not all organizations allow for online access, so you'll have to check with your internal department or your managers or bosses. But we have this ability to access our Office 365 calendar and the settings for that calendar through this portal. Now, when I navigate to the calendar settings, you'll see that I have a number of different things that I can affect. The automatic processing of emails, events, the appearance of my calendar, and more. To navigate around the different settings, I'm simply going to select with my mouse the different portions of my calendar. Now, under my calendar settings, I can see that I can personalize the calendar appearance, setting my work hours, when I start my day and when I end it, when the first week of the year begins, and the first day of the week, how that is set. I also have the ability to set the color of my calendar and how long the increments will be. So again, if you're looking to customize the appearance of your calendar, you can do a lot of that through the online calendar. Now, whether or not you want the weather, that's one thing, but one of the things that I think is really helpful is the automatic processing of emails, or specifically events from emails. Outlook can automatically add events from certain things like flights or hotel reservations to your calendar, and I personally have found this very helpful. I travel a lot for work, and when I get confirmation for flights or hotel reservations, I find it very helpful to automatically have those events added to my calendar. Now, some of my clients have complained about this feature, so if you want to change the settings, this is where you can go to update that. I also have my ability to respond to invitations. Controlling how invitations, responses, and notifications are handled. In addition, I have my reminders for notifications and the ability to set up text message notifications. So I can have notifications for meetings sent as text reminders. Now, of course, your telephone settings will apply here, but these are all very useful when wanting to make sure you don't miss important information on your calendar. And I wanted to show you guys these because, again, we don't always have access to our actual calendar or our computer. and I'm able to access these calendar settings anywhere that I have internet access and access to my Office 365 online portal. Now, the final section of our training today is going to focus on Google Calendar. I have two things in Google Calendar that I find very useful when working from Gmail or from my Google Calendar. And these are things that my clients give me feedback that they find very helpful. The first thing I wanted to show you guys is how to create events from email. Just like we did in Outlook, when I'm working from my Gmail, I may want to take a message that someone has sent me and convert that to an event on my calendar. One of the things that I have found is that when I put things on my calendar, I'm much more likely to accomplish them. Whereas if I just need to remember that I have an email with something to do, I'm much more likely to get distracted or to lose that under the number of emails that I get every day. Now, one of the things that's important to remember when working within your Gmail or your Google suite of applications is that you must select an email to get all of the options to work with that message. When I select an email using the box just to the left of the message, it gives me a new set of tools for working with that message. One of the things that I get when selecting a message from Gmail is I get a more option. Here are all sorts of information like add to tasks, filter messages like these. Now, the thing is most people look at that more and assume that everything that they would want to be able to do with that message is found in that more option. And that's just not the case. Unfortunately, to get to all of the options for working with this message, I actually have to open it up. When I open up the message, I still have that same more button. But you'll notice that I get a new option here that I didn't have before, and that is to create an event. So again, if I simply select a message from my Google Mail and go to the More option, I do not have a Create Event selection. I must open up the message and then choose the More option to create an event. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take this message from Google and choose to create an event with it. And when I do, it opens up a new tab. So you'll notice that I have a new tab that was created. It took the subject line of that email and it placed that as the subject line of my new event. It took all of the information from the body of that message and put it into the description for the event. All I have to do is simply set a time for me to complete this. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this tomorrow, we'll say at 1 p.m. If I wanted to discuss this email with a colleague or turn this into a meeting, I could simply select over here and invite guests. But that easily, I was able to convert all of the information within this email to an event on my calendar. And I simply save that, and now you can see that I have that new event on my calendar tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So this is one of those features that I'm not quite sure why Google makes you open up the new window, but again, if I have a message that I want to convert into a meeting or an appointment for myself, I simply open up the message, go to the More option up at the top, and choose Create Event. This will convert the email to an appointment on your calendar, saving you time from having to copy and paste or recreate the important information from the message. Now, I'm a big fan of putting things on my calendar, as I mentioned, and the more things you place on your calendar, the easier it is to mark them off and complete them. That being said, sometimes it's helpful to have tasks on your calendar. Maybe you have something that needs to get done at a certain time or on a certain date, but not at a certain time. From Gmail, the mail section of Gmail, I can go up to the mail button in the top left corner and I can open up tasks. When I open up tasks, it simply gives me a new panel here on the right where I can add tasks by simply typing the name of the task and hitting enter. Once I've reviewed the budget, I can mark that task as complete. Now, when I do select an email, I've got the more option. I do have the option to add as tasks. And if I select that add as tasks, I now have that subject line added as a task in my task pane. Now, this is really helpful, and I am a fan of being able to convert an email to a task. But I do find this panel here somewhat in the way. So I like to close out of that, and then I'm always having to go back and add that task. Now, if I say set a due date on this task, maybe I want to complete this task by Wednesday of this week, I can move back to the list, but it doesn't give me an alert. It just simply shows Wednesday, July 26th. And if I move over to my calendar and I look on Wednesday, July 26th, I do not see that task on my calendar. By default, your calendar is not set up to display tasks, but with just a click, you can switch that. In other words, I want to be able to see the tasks that I've set to be due on a certain date on my calendar on that date. Now, the way that I do this is I simply navigate to my Google Calendar. And if I don't have my Google Calendar open, from my Google Gmail, I simply navigate to the app switcher or the waffle and select Calendar. When you open up your calendar, it gives you all of the different views up in the top right corner and different ways to navigate along the navigation pane on the left. You'll notice that on the navigation pane, we have a section called Reminders. To switch reminders to tasks so that your tasks are displayed on your calendar, you're simply going to go to the arrow on the right and choose Switch to Tasks. That easy, you are able to start to display those tasks on your calendar, and you'll see that task that I had with a due date of Wednesday is now displayed. If I open up that task, it shows me the information, the notes that I placed with it, and if I mark it complete, it's no longer displaying as a task that needs to be completed. It has the strike through. So again, if I take an email, I convert it to a task, I set that task with a due date. This time I'll set it as a due date of Friday. Now with this new system, that task will display, give it a second to refresh, that task will display on my calendar with a due date of Friday. Now, I know that that was a handful of tips and tricks in a relatively short amount of time. So I wanted to just let you guys know that as a thank you for attending this special session from the Better Business Bureau, Learnit is providing some discounted training for all of you. By navigating to our courses.learnit.com through learnmore.html, you get 20% off on the following courses. And I'll place this link into the chat panel in just a minute. So we have 3 different classes that we're giving to you guys at a discounted rate that go into all of the things that I just shared, plus a lot more. So if you're looking for ways to better manage your email and your calendar, your online calendar through Google, please reach out to us at any time. Now, I'd like to turn it around back over to Jared. It's right at 2:30, and I want to be respectful of all of your time. And I'd also like to open it up for questions. So thank you again for joining our training today. And I will hand it back over to Jared so he can make sure that we get all of your questions addressed. Thank you, Jared.
Great and great information, Kara. I actually learned a few things myself, so and trying to keep organized is tough. So this is very helpful. Thank you. And also, we want to let everyone know that this is a recorded session as well. So we will be recording this and creating basically a webinar, a microsite out of all this information in the future, so that you all can see this when you can at your own time as well. But if you have any questions, please feel free to go on the right-hand side of your screen and type the questions in, and we'll get those answered with Kara as well. I will say that going back through the poll too, Kara, it looks like the majority, 50%, do use Microsoft Outlook. About 17% who entered the poll have Google Calendar, so majority are online. And about a quarter actually use handwritten office calendars in their office. I know I'm a to-do list kind of person. I write everything on my notepads. But is it smart also, to kind of start off the questions with you, Kara, is it smart to maybe transition some of your handwritten calendar items to an online calendar? Or if you're more of a handwritten kind of person, is that the way to keep it?
That's a great question, Jared. And when it comes to calendar and email in general, I like to always consider the individual, because I think all of us have different sets of responsibilities and information that's important to us on a day-to-day basis. Now, what we're seeing as far as industry trends is that mobility is key. Being able to work from a mobile device and to have your calendar wherever you are, wherever you're going, is usually most important. In organizations where you're embracing the cloud and online platforms like the Outlook or the Google, we're typically communicating through our calendars with our colleagues. So in that sense, I always recommend being able to access your calendar from your mobile device if you're utilizing a smartphone. Now, that being said, if you're trying to make sure that you don't forget something, if something is really important, there's a lot of data that says writing it down too can be helpful. So one of the things that I'm seeing a lot is people are using products like OneNote and other tools to be able to use a stylus and to still write, but to have that converted digitally. So again, I've got a long-winded answer there, but I think the important thing is that we're tracking all of this information, and that within business right now, the more you can be mobile, the more you can have your information online through the cloud, the better transparency and the better collaboration and communication that you'll have within your organization. So that's my long-winded spiel there.
No, that's great. And I guess some of those can be apps that you can download as well, right?
Yeah, the Outlook, Microsoft Outlook has an amazing app, as does Google Calendar. If you're using the native apps on your mobile device, in other words, the Mail on your iPhone or the default Mail app on your Android, I highly recommend taking a look at the Outlook and the Google Calendar apps, as they give you a lot more features and functionality than the native Mail and Calendar app does on your mobile device.
That's great. Good information. And we'd also like to show too, while we're waiting on some questions to actually come in, that if any of you need to contact either one of us here at Better Business Bureau, we have our phone number up on the screen along with our website, and then my email is jwise@bbbemail.org, and then that's our social media links at Golden Gate BBB, so be sure to follow us if you don't already, and then Learnit's as well. So there's a number to Learnit, and then learnit.com. And then Kara, if you would like to follow her on LinkedIn, there's her LinkedIn, and I could probably copy it. Well, actually, I can't. Oh, and there's thank you for attending as well. And then her email too, kara.clifford@learnit.com. And once again, those are Learnit's social media channels as well. If you want to follow some information, they have some great information. And I know some of the staff members here at Better Business Bureau have used some of the programs at Learnit, which have been great. So great skill building. Some other classes that we're considering doing online in the future include Excel training. So I know that's something that I need to work on for sure. But also business skills for time management, and also managing office stress. So there's some good programs out there, and we're hoping to bring some more of that to our accredited businesses as well. Some just more good skill builder lessons that you can learn in your office. So once again, Kara has done an amazing job at presenting a quick. I know these classes are a lot longer, but she's done a really good job at presenting this information in a short amount of time. So, Kara, thank you again for taking the time out and for putting this together for us today.
My pleasure, Jared, and big thank you to everyone that was today, and for you for organizing this great event. I look forward to being involved more and providing useful tips and tricks to all of the members.
Excellent. And it looks like we actually don't have any questions. So you must have answered some. You must have went through that. But I'm sure that for more information, once again, Learn It does has the resource library and have information as well. So that would be a great place to go if you do have some additional training that you would like to do for you as a manager maybe, or even as something to train your staff as well. So something to kind of consider.
And feel free to email me, you guys, if questions come up down the road, or if you have any trouble, completing any of the activities that I demoed. I'm always happy to be a resource.
Fantastic. Well, I think that will do it for our short session for today. And again, for all of our businesses that have joined us today, thank you so much. And once again, keep an eye on your emails. We will have future skill builders sessions in the next month. And so we're hoping to continue this and do something a little different each time. And it looks like we do have one response come in that someone's actually torn between which calendar to actually use, and I can kind of agree with that as well, because I use Outlook in our office, but the Google options seem like a good way to go as well. And actually, this question that just came in, so sorry, we're about to wrap it up.
No, that's great.
It's Google or Outlook. Which one how do you commit from one to the other? Which one is the better one, I guess?
You know what I found, Jared, is there really is no right answer when it comes to that. To me, what I think is the best choice is whenever you pick a platform, whether you're going to go with the G Suite or with the Office 365, that it's best to stick within it. When I have organizations that are trying to constantly switch between Microsoft and Google products, that's where things become more of a hassle. It's definitely best to stick within what your organization is using. I find it easier. There's always going to be a little bit of issues when you're moving between a Google product and a Microsoft product. So unfortunately, it's almost like pick a Kool-Aid and then drink it. So there really is. They're both really great products. They both have pros and cons. Outlook has been around a lot longer. So when it comes to functionality, Outlook definitely has more. But one of the things that Google really does well is it allows for third-party developers, for people that create labs and other features, to really do a lot with it. So you get a lot of functionality, not from Google itself, but from the add-ins and the labs that Google allows third parties to develop. So again, I don't have a great answer. Obviously, I'm not paid by either Microsoft or Google, but I think that whatever your organization decides, I know Learn It and myself can definitely help you utilize that more effectively, whether it's time management or just tips within the application. So again, my answer to that question is pick one and then stick with it.
No,
So,
that sounds good.
best of luck. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. And plus, I'm sure both of these programs update their calendars regularly with new features that are easier to use, too.
Yeah. It used to be that we would have to wait a long time for Microsoft to push updates out, and that's just not the case with this new, SaaS model, the platform of Office 365. So that's the good news for Microsoft Outlook users. Google is just getting better every day. There's features and functionality that's constantly being pushed out, and again, I think looking at the size of your organization, looking at the price points for both of these, there's a lot of conversation that I could have around this. So if you're interested in discussing this more detailed, I'm always happy to be a resource if you are kind of trying to debate between. But again, the short answer there is whatever one you decide, I recommend staying within that platform. If you're going to be a Microsoft shop, stick with Microsoft. If you're going to be a Google shop, then stick within that Google suite.
Okay, fair enough. I do have another question. How to empty your email? It looks like one individual has over 1,000 emails. So is that typical on? I believe that's an Outlook customer. Is that a right-click delete?
Yeah, there's lots. It's funny. My mom, she recently got in trouble at work because work found out that she had a lot of online shopping coming to her work email, and
Oh no.
she works for a government organization, and they were like, that's not acceptable. And so one of the first things I recommend is making sure that you're unsubscribing from things so that you don't continue to get those messages, because I'll have a lot of clients spend a lot of time cleaning up email, and a week later they have just as many unneeded messages. So my first recommendation is to always unsubscribe to things. If you don't see an unsubscribe option, just reply unsubscribe in the subject line. Legally, people have to take you off their mailing lists. Now, that being said, what I would recommend first off is using some of the conversation cleanup tools in Outlook, and there are quite a few. If you are in the mail section of Outlook, there is this option that you can use a cleanup, and there's a cleanup button there that'll clean up all redundancy. So if you're running
Karen,
into
would you like me to give you control a little bit so you can
yeah, it's hard to tell without seeing the user's email to know like where the messages are. But yeah, that would be my recommendation, and I'll share my screen real fast so you guys can see this. So you should be able to see my scene right now,
Yeah.
my screen. But up on the ribbon, you'll notice that there is this cleanup button. And one of the things I tell my clients is that if you're getting notifications from your IT department, or if you're getting notifications from Microsoft that you're running out of room, you can use this conversation cleanup button. And what this will do, if you clean up the folder, is that it will get rid of redundant messages. So it doesn't get rid of anything unique, just redundancy. And it will, in other words, delete all of that repetitive back and forth messaging, the signatures that come on every message. Now, other than that, I think the best way is to get rid of, is to archive, or to get rid of things that you no longer need, or to simply delete. And for anyone that's got all sorts of messages that they need to simply get rid of, you could easily do a search. You could go out a few months grouping together messages, and you could simply just delete things. You could, if you're worried about that, you could run a search of messages from earlier in the year, or in the after a previous time, and you could delete those. So I could say messages from not this week, but last year. So here are all messages from last year, starting in 2016. Now, once I've done a search for these messages, I can use keyboard shortcuts like Control A, or Select All, or select the first message, scroll all the way down to the last message while holding the Shift key, and selecting everything in between, and then using the Delete key. So again, there's lots of different ways to perform this action, but I think the key is using those cleanup folders, remembering that you can search for emails and then select all those messages. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to mention is that if you go into the File menu, under Tools, there's all sorts of mailbox cleanup, empty deleted items folder, and clean up old items. So this one right here is probably what the participant, or the person attending, would want to use. So move old items to an Outlook data file. In other words, export these from my email server to a local drive. So that's, again, there's lots of different ways to do this, but just wanted to quickly share a few of those for that user.
And then for Gmail, is it pretty similar?
Well, Gmail is, there's not a lot of need to clean up Gmail as far as security settings go. A lot of my clients within Gmail is they'll have their own retention policies set. Now, again, the same idea is that I could run a search. One of the things that people don't pay enough attention to is this little arrow right here. This will open up your search refiners. So I could say I want to go and search for emails within the last year of a certain specific date. So I can say I'm going to go back to years from the 1st. So it does a search of all of those older messages, and then I can select the messages here and simply delete them. So similar, again, the key is to avoid all of that redundant messaging in the first place by unsubscribing. But again, when you have a lot of messages that are old that you want to just get rid of, my recommendation is always to run a search of those over messages and then do a mass deletion. So best of luck to your user. And again, if you have questions or more detailed questions on that, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Perfect. That's great, Kara. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. It looks like that's the end of our questions. And if you have any more, and if they pop up a little later, then we will answer those directly too. So if you do happen to ask more questions, we'll make sure to reach out to you directly with those as well. So yeah, Kara, did you have anything else that you can think of?
No, I mean, I think that's great. And again, there's so much more. So, again, feel free to reach out to me, but I highly recommend those other classes and that 20% discount. Or at least, if nothing else, checking out the Learn It YouTube channel for other free little trainings like this. And hopefully you'll invite Learn It back for one of the next skill building series. We'd love to be a part of it, Jared. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, again, Kara, thank you so much. And thank you to all the attendees that attended today. If you have questions, feel free to ask them still, and we'll make sure to respond back to you individually. But for today, happy Monday, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your work week, and we hope to see you again soon. All right, Kara, have a good one. Thank you, too.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.